What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be talking about engine bars on a Suzuki V Strom. If you check out the internet, a lot of people seem to have issues with pretty heavy vibration, especially in the 4,900 to 5,500 RPM. And one of the reasons I bought this bike was because of how silky smooth it was. And I put the sw-motech engine bars on here, and I ran into the same issue that a lot of people are having. And 4,900 to 5,500, these things just act as gigantic tuning forks, and you get a lot of vibration coming up through the handlebars. Now, mine wasn't as bad as some people are saying. My hands aren't going numb or anything from it. Feet aren't going numb or anything from it. Some people have reported that they have it. This seems to affect more than just the sw-motech bars. Suzuki OEM, Alt Riders, Happy Trails, GV bars, a bunch of them. Now, some people say some are better than the others, and maybe they are, maybe they're not. These sw-motechs look extremely well put together. I like them, they're very cool, but it was to the point where I lost all that smoothness and I was going to take them off because I couldn't deal with it. And I'm going to go through what some of the common recommendations on the fixes are. And I've been through the 33-page Strom Trooper thread twice, and there's one guy on there that recommended something that nobody else was looking at, and I believe he was right. And I believe that the thrust adjusters on a lot of these V Stroms and a bunch of other Suzukis, but specific to the V Strom and these crash bars, the thrust adjusters were not set right at the factory. They weren't torqued enough. It's allowing the engine to vibrate way more, and putting a rubber washer in between the front braces where the two engine bars connect, yes, it helps. And I did that first, and it absolutely helped. But it maybe deadened like 10% of it. The thrust adjusters, I just tested it, have almost knocked out the vibration completely. So I'm going to show you exactly. I'm not going to go through the whole process again because I don't want to unbutton the whole thing, and I'm pretty happy with where it is. But I'm going to show you what I believe is a fix, and why I believe it affects so many different bikes differently. Because depending on how those things were adjusted, some people's may have been right at the factory, some people's weren't. And I think that's influencing how people are saying some bars compare to the other in terms of vibration. I bet if you put those same bars on the exact same bike, on a good one, they probably wouldn't vibrate nearly as much as if you put them on one that was set up bad from the factory. So let's take a look at what I did, and I'll hopefully this helps somebody out, because you might be chasing this thing forever unless you try these thrust adjusters. Alright, so let's show you how these sw-motech bars actually connect to the bike. And each one of the bars has two main connection points, and then they brace and connect to each other at the middle here. These are held on by two screws, nuts, nylon nuts. And one of the most common recommendations is to put a piece of rubber here. So what I've done is put a piece of rim band, cut a couple holes in it, and I've put a piece of rubber there. The heaviest vibration is being transferred through this piece. If you reach out and grab this thing while you're riding, right here is where you're going to feel it the most. So it's attached to the bike on these two, well, what is this, a frame engine mounting ear, I think it may be called. Let's see if I can get a little better light. Yeah, so you got the frame here, you pull out the OEM bolts, and you end up putting in these longer bolts, couple spacers, taking these bolts out from the factory. I don't know if Hercules is there tightening these things up, but you're gonna wrestle with them if they're anything like mine. They're thread locked in there, and you put these things back on, you thread lock them on. They're not torqued nearly as much, or I didn't torque them nearly as much. I think it's 16.5 Newton meters, they even say in the manual for the OEM bolts, and I could tell you they were a lot more than that when I was taking them off. So that's how it's mounted here on this ear. And then from the other side, same thing. And what this ear is actually doing on the bike, forget about the crash bars for a second, this whole house is one of the two engine mounting bolts there. So right there is one of them, that's the top one, and the second one is down here behind the shift lever in there. These are the two culprits that a guy, Mule-Wright or something, on the Strom Trooper forums pointed out. So you can chase engine vibrations on this thing all day, but if it's sending a bunch of vibration from the engine into this bar, no matter what bars you have, they're gonna vibrate. So if you can fix some of the engine vibration, you don't have to do all these different cover-up jobs. So I'm gonna show you what they look like on the diagram, so maybe this makes a little more sense. Because up until about a week ago, I didn't know what a thrust adjuster was. And maybe I'm just dense, maybe I don't know too much, but maybe one other person doesn't know and this can help them. So let's take a look at the papers. Oh, you just go right over here. Don't laugh at me for printing stuff out, I'm kind of in a hurry. So I've got the big old manual. This is what I went through to figure out how I was going to take the engine bolts out. You're going to need a special tool to pull the thrust adjuster lock nut out. You can get the Suzuki OEM one for like 125 bucks, or you can get this little guy. It's a Motion Pro one for like 48. There's cheaper generic ones, or you can even modify your own 22 millimeter socket, and you just need to cut these 4 little grabbers in there. They grab the hex nut. No, not the hex nut, the thrust adjuster lock nut. So when I'm talking about a thrust adjuster, this is what it is here. So I didn't know what this looked like until I pulled it out. This one's not on the 2017, 2018. This is actually a picture of the one that I pulled out of my bike. But this seemed like it'd be a little bit better of a explanation. So the way I pulled it out of the bike is put it up on the center stand. If you don't have a center stand, if you have a swing arm stand, that's gonna work just as well. I'm pretty sure you can't just do this with the kickstand. Maybe you can, but I think you risk dropping the engine out of the bike. What I did is I put a bottle jack to this side, hold the engine up right on the bottom there. So a bottle jack on that side, and I put a Harbor Freight motorcycle lift jack right here near the oil drain plug, so that the engine, when I pulled this bolt out, that one there, and when I pulled this bolt out, that one there, not at the same time, only did one at a time, so that the engine didn't fall to the ground and then really make me have a shitty day. So coming back here, exploded parts diagram. This is a frame, and these are the parts we're talking about. There is this thrust adjuster, which is this thing. There is this thrust adjuster lock nut, and then the rod goes through to the other side. This is the statement that really made this resonate with me, why I think that this is the issue, and this is that Mule Right guy. He said you could tighten the through mount bolts all you want, but if the adjusters are loose on the engine mounting ears, it's still loose, and it will allow for vibrations. And this guy said he's had several V Stroms, buddy with the same V Strom, it didn't vibrate and everything like that, and he went through, tightened up his adjusters, and boom, he fixed it. And I just experienced a very similar thing. So another thing I'm going to try, this is actually what I have. This is an old rim band from a K100 wheel, some rubbery stuff. So this is what I have in between my mounting braces right now. I bought some thicker rubber sheets and some punches so that I could put a better brace on it. And I did do the brace, the rubber washer in between that front brace I'm talking about, this thing, and it helped, but it didn't remove it. Doing the thrust adjuster change definitely did. So that's pretty much what I had to go over here. So if you get this manual, this big old guy, it will show you how to take this thing apart, and you're in section 1D46. What I want to mention here is that this has all the torque values that you're going to need. So inside of here, this is what you can, who knows if you could see that, but you can see where that special tool has to go into those 4 little notches there. That's why you can't just pull it out with a socket. And it's going to have, this is a special tool. So 09940-14990. That's the one from Suzuki, and then Motion Pro makes a generic one. Well, not a generic, it's a Motion Pro one. Anyway, this will have all the instructions on how to remove the engine mounting bolts. And I'm telling you, go through that, remove one at a time. You get the thrust adjuster out. It's 12.5 Newton meters is not a lot. It's basically hand tight. The Harbor Freight torque adjuster that I have, the 3/8 inch drive, it starts at 13.6, so I'm gonna be honest, mine are actually torqued at 13.6. So you pull everything apart, go over to your thrust adjuster, you pull the bolt out, and you pull the lock nut out, you pull the thrust adjuster out, then start turning the thrust adjuster back in, bring out your torque wrench. It's weird in that I was expecting to see this, and on the torque adjuster, the Motion Pro tool, you could see how these 4 notches would fit in there. And I was confused as hell, because when I pulled it out, this thing looks like it has nowhere to even put anything. But a 12 point, not a 6 point, but a 12 point socket, 19 millimeter, actually fit over that. And since you're only torquing it to 12 and a half, 13.6 Newton meters, you're not gonna strip anything. So anyway, you tighten that thing up, put it through there, and then you put so that's 12 and a half Newton meters, then the thrust adjuster lock nut goes on, and that's something like 35 Newton meters. Make sure you check this in the manual. And then the engine bolt and the engine lock, bolt nut on the other side go through, and those on the top, it's a bigger nut on the bolt head on the top. That's a 17, this is a 17 millimeter, so it's got a bigger shank and a bigger head. Those get torqued to like, ooh, it's a high number. It's like 96 on the top, but the bottom one here, you're gonna have to remove the shifter. This is real easy. You just take out the 8 millimeter here, and then you need a snap ring pliers, pull this thing out, and this whole assembly comes right off. This is only a 14 millimeter, so these have lower torque values. Maybe you can see a little bit better how that thrust adjuster lock nut goes on there. Anyway, this is a lower torque rating, so don't jack that one up to like 96 Newton meters. That one's like 55, something like that. Let's see if I can just be thorough and tell you. Yeah, so the lock nut is 45 Newton meters, and then the engine mounting bolt on the bottom is 55. The engine mounting nut on the top is 93, and 93 is a lot. Anyway, I apologize for not going through the whole thing, like actually disassembling this and doing it, but I really don't want to do it all over again, because honestly, it was really, really enjoyable to actually ride it and not feel that vibration. Just to finish up, I've not completely removed all vibration. If you reach out while you're riding and grab here, you barely feel anything, and there's very little coming through the handlebars. You reach out to here, you can still feel it. Instead of the 4,900 to 5,500 range, what I now have is about 5,400 to 5,500. These things still reach a resonance at 5,500. It's still bolted to a machine, you know, with 70 horsepower. It's vibrating. No matter what, we've attached gigantic tuning forks to the side of this. So it's not gonna not vibrate. I think that's gonna have to be a reconciliation or sacrifice you have if you put engine bars on. If it was so bad like it was before, I was about to take them off. Right now, I'm pretty comfortable with this. I think the little bit bigger piece of rubber in there will help me mask a little bit more of it. Right now, at 5,500, that is the exact spot where these things seem to hit resonance with the setup that I've got. And I can live with it now. It is 20% of what it was before, and I'm happy with these changes. I think that Mule-Right guy over there had it right all along. I think this is why it affects so many bikes differently, so many different setups of engine bars and everything. Why some people say some are great, why some people say some suck balls, is because their bikes weren't torqued correct from the factory. And going through that, fixing that thing up, maybe you get yourself your brand new silky smooth bike back. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this helps at least one person out. I appreciate it. Oh, also Wisconsin, it's April 27th. Go fuck yourself. It's supposed to be 6 inches of snow? God damn it.